How many times have you looked forward to something for weeks, maybe months, maybe even a year, and then the actual thing comes around and you actually just feel a bit underwhelmed and disappointed by it? Maybe it's that concert, maybe it's that big trip you've been looking forward to, maybe it's that promotion at work that you finally get, or that date that you've been looking forward to for weeks. Maybe your wedding day, right? Whatever it is. For some reason, that idea that you painted in your mind was just way better than the actual thing. And then you almost feel guilty when you do experience the actual event. And then you're like, why didn't I have as much fun as I should have? Or why wasn't it actually as exciting as I thought it was going to be? Why didn't that thing make me as happy as I hoped or envisioned in my mind? So today we're going to talk about this idea of having high expectations and how these high expectations can actually often take away from the joy and happiness that we feel from the actual experience. We're going to dig into why we do this and how we can stop doing this, how we can stop letting our high expectations take away from us actually enjoying the experience. So as you may have guessed, the reason I'm doing today's episode is because this happened to me in my life recently. I was really looking forward to this one concert just about a week ago, and I was looking forward to it for months. It was my favorite country artist, and I've been wanting to see him in concert for a long time. So of course, there was this whole buildup of me listening to all his music leading up to it, just getting this idea in my mind of how it was going to be this like perfect, amazing concert. And even the morning of, I was super excited leading up to it. But then I get there and it was just kind of that feeling like, oh, like I'm here, this is it. I should be like super excited and having so much fun. But I was like focused actually more on the fact that like, it's like really hot and sweaty and like a lot more crowded than I expected. And I'm not going to get as close to the stage as I would have liked. I just found myself kind of focusing on all the ways it wasn't exactly that vision in my mind, rather than all the reasons why it was a great experience. Because it was a fun time. I was there with someone I loved. I was there seeing an artist that I loved, and it was a great day. But I just noticed that because it didn't meet that super high bar that I set in my mind, because it didn't look exactly like that vision I had in my mind of what I wanted it to look like, I was left feeling a little bit underwhelmed and a little bit almost like disappointed and feeling a little bit guilty that I didn't have as much fun as I thought I would. And honestly, I noticed this pattern a lot in my life. Like the more expectation I set, the more I am like looking forward to something and paint that picture in my mind of what I want it to look like or what I need it to look like for it to be a success or for me to love that experience, the more disappointed and let down I feel when the actual thing comes around. So that's exactly why I wanted to do an episode on this and why I wanted to dig into this. Why do we set these really high expectations, and why do these expectations often take away from us actually getting more joy out of the experience? And then of course, how can we maybe stop falling into this pattern to enjoy these experiences more? And in researching these questions, I actually really resonated with a lot of these responses, and a few also really opened my eyes to things that I hadn't even considered. So I'm excited to dive in. First one, we think that anticipation equals control. So what this means is that if we can know what to expect from life, if we think that we can predict it and envision what it's going to look like, that life will be less uncertain and that will have more control over the situation. But the funny thing about this logic that we tell ourselves in our mind is we all know that we can't predict life. We all know that life is messy and unpredictable and just happens as it's meant to happen, and it never looks like that image that we craft in our minds. Yet we're constantly falling down this cycle and trap of trying to control it and setting these expectations. So it's our brains tricking us into believing that if we build up this super perfect and specific expectation for that event, then life will be more certain and predictable. But again, not the case. So really that expectation is just setting us up for disappointment a lot of the time. Okay, second one, another one that honestly really hit home for me is the social media and comparison loops. So we go on social media, we're scrolling through and we are seeing and absorbing the perfectly curated version of everyone's experience. So whether it be that relationship, that vacation, that concert, that date, we're seeing that perfect highlight of it. And therefore, we're absorbing that, what we're seeing, and expecting our experience to be that exact same way. So we're taking like the fake like social media movie, perfect image of it, and thinking that our real life version is going to be just as perfect. So take this concert, for example, right? On social media, I was seeing perfectly edited photos of people at the concert from the couple days prior because it was a like 3-day festival kind of thing. And it was making me think that I was going to have that same perfect experience. What I wasn't seeing in the photos was like how hot and sweaty and crowded it was, and maybe how like the audio isn't as great, and like I wasn't as close to the stage as those people were, and all these things that social media isn't capturing that are a lot more real in life. Maybe you're seeing someone's like travel experience, right? And you're seeing like the perfect picture of them on the beach, but you might not see like the 4-hour delay at the airport they had, or the food poisoning they got 2 nights before, whatever, I'm making this up, but you know what I mean. We set our expectations based on these perfect images and curated photos that we see, and then we project that onto our own experience, or what we hope our own experience would look like. So it's no wonder I felt a little bit disappointed when the concert was like way more hot and sweaty and crowded and young than I expected, because these perfect photos and social media did not prepare me for that. So anyways, that one really resonated with me. Third one, we tie happiness to a specific outcome or result. So this one's definitely especially the case for high achievers and perfectionists, which is probably also why it really hits home for me. But ultimately, if the outcome of the event doesn't meet our expectation, we in a way see it as a failure because it didn't meet that bar and it didn't look like that exact result or outcome that we wanted it to, or that we thought it would. Even again, if it was still a positive experience, because it was maybe lacking in a couple areas, or because it didn't look exactly like that outcome or result, it doesn't feel like a success. And that's why we might feel a little bit underwhelmed and disappointed by that. So again, sticking with this concert example, right? Because we're on a roll here, and that was the thing most top of mind for me. There were so many awesome, fun things that I could have focused on at the concert. And in the back of my mind, I was kind of still dwelling on like, oh, I can't hear him as well as I would like. Like there should be better speakers back here where we're standing. Or, oh, these kids smoking a cigarette next to me are like 18 and I'm inhaling their secondhand smoke as I'm trying to enjoy this music. Or I'm super hot and dehydrated right now and I need more water. Like focusing on all of the things that I didn't really incorporate into that expectation that I had going into it. Instead of all the awesome parts, like I get to see my favorite artist perform, even if I couldn't actually see him and I had to look at him on like the like the TV camera thing because I was so far back, and I got to be there with someone I loved. I got to go out and have fun on a concert all day on a Sunday instead of doing regular mundane Sunday things. That is not a failure. That is a win, and that is all a positive experience. But again, because it wasn't exactly that outcome or result that I hoped, or wasn't exactly that vision that I hoped, that perfectionist in me did feel a little bit like it was a disappointment and like it didn't meet that in some way. Okay, next one is something called the dopamine buildup problem. And this is actually something super interesting, and I've never heard it phrased like this before. But what this means is ultimately like sometimes that anticipation and excitement leading up to something becomes the reward itself. So it's like we get all this hype and excitement and mental buildup leading up to it, that when the actual thing arrives, we like fall a bit flat. It's actually like not as exciting. It's like that anticipation leading up to it was a lot better. So like with the concert, I was having so much fun listening to music before, like envisioning what it was going to be like hearing it live, getting ready, picking out my outfit, like all the things, right? Or think about anything you're getting ready for. Like if you're packing for a trip, like you're envisioning how fun it's going to be. You're playing like a great playlist as you're packing, and you're making all these fun dinner reservations and things like that. Or if you're going out for a night with friends, you're listening to music, getting ready, wondering if you're going to like meet cute guys when you're out. That anticipation and hype when you're leading up to the thing often can be more exciting than the actual thing. And I find this to be so true. Like I find myself so giddy and excited often leading up to things, and then the actual thing comes around and it doesn't feel as exciting because I built it up so much in my head leading up to it. And therefore it's almost hard for the thing to actually meet that bar and build up because again, I was painting this like perfect idea in my mind and just like really building it up to be something bigger than maybe it was. So these are a lot of primary reasons as to why we build up these high expectations in our mind and why they lead to us maybe feeling a bit underwhelmed and disappointed when the actual experience comes around. So now let's talk about the shifts. How can we stop letting these expectations, these really high bars that we set, kill our joy? How can we start enjoying the actual experience a lot more and accepting it for what it is? So I picked a few that really resonated with me. First one, set intentions, not expectations. So to me, what this means is letting go of what you need that specific external outcome to look like, what the actual experience you need to look like, and instead asking yourself how you can show up to make that experience better. What mindset can you have going into it that is going to make you enjoy that experience more? So setting that internal intention of how you're going to show up, something that is in your control, instead of having tunnel vision or clinging to a specific outcome or result that you feel like you need. So an example here could be like going on a date, right? It's easy to put all these high expectations on the person that you're going on a date with, on it being a perfect restaurant, on it being a great night. But instead, you could shift that intention inward and say like, I'm going to go in with the intention of just getting to know someone tonight. No expectations on who they really are because I don't know who they really are. But I'm going to keep an open mind and get curious to get to know someone and stay open to just having a new experience and meeting someone new. Focusing on an internal intention on how you are going to choose to show up in that experience will make that experience better, but it's also the thing that's actually in your control. Like you don't actually know what that person's going to be like when you go on the date, but if they're not your perfect partner, are you going to let that ruin your entire night? Or are you going to go in with the intention of still just staying open and curious and excited to get to know someone new? Because if you go in with that intention rather than clinging to that expectation of them being your perfect person and having the perfect date, then you're going to enjoy the experience regardless. And again, it's something that you can actually control. Okay, another one I love here, loosening the grip on perfection. In other words, instead of needing that thing to be perfect, instead of needing it to look just like you see on social media, that perfectly edited version, everything goes perfectly smoothly, accepting the real, accepting the messy. So this one I feel like is especially effective when we're clinging to what we see on social media, or we're setting our expectations based on what we're seeing on social media, to let go of needing it to be so perfect like that. And instead reminding ourselves like life is a lot more messy and real and meaningful in real life. And it's not going to look exactly like those perfectly curated images. It's not going to be exactly perfect, but that's the beauty of life. We can stay open to that messiness and those imperfections. And that will allow us to enjoy the experience a lot more. Because if we don't need that experience to be perfect to enjoy it, then we can enjoy it anyways. We can enjoy it despite it not being that perfect idea that we need it to be in our minds. So with the concert example here, like, okay, I can shift away from focusing on all the imperfections because I don't need this to be perfect, but I can just accept it for what it is and accept the messy and enjoy all parts of it. Enjoy the messiness of it, enjoy the realness of it, not focusing on how it's maybe not, quote, perfect, and allowing myself to just experience it for what it is, accept it for what it is. This is another one I love. Celebrate the ordinary. This is just an eye-opening reminder that honestly, most of the joy in life is in the mundane or the unexpected moments, the ones that we don't put so much pressure on, the ones that aren't so luxurious and grandiose. Again, we go on social media and see the 1% of people's lives that are grand, that are perfectly curated, that are super exciting, but we don't see the 99% under the surface. And joy is often in that 99%. It's often not in the experiences and events we put so much pressure on being perfect and having so much fun at. I often find that some of my favorite memories looking back, the times when I did have the most fun and loved the most, were the ones that were spontaneous, unexpected, and seemingly mundane, but I just truly enjoyed. The ones that I, again, didn't build up this big expectation for. So ultimately, this reminder to celebrate the ordinary can take the pressure off these seemingly like big events that we're really looking forward to, because joy exists in so much of these other events in life too. It's not just in this one event that you're looking forward to for months. It's in the small moments and the things that you're also not seeing in social media. And then last shift that I love, reframing the outcome. So again, if we're kind of that perfectionist and need that outcome to go a certain way, especially if we built up this expectation so specifically in our minds, we want it to be perfect. We really want it to go that way. But what if it didn't go that way for a reason? Maybe it was messy and imperfect and actually didn't go to plan to teach you something. Maybe that was actually the experience you were meant to have, not the one that you built up in your mind. Maybe having that experience go that way was meant to open your eyes to something that you didn't consider. So thinking about the concert, okay, it wasn't the perfect night that I envisioned, but maybe it was there to teach me like, I think I may be outgrowing this festival a little bit, and like realizing I'm surrounded by a lot of like young people. But okay, maybe it was there to teach me like, I think maybe I'm starting to outgrow this concert and vibe a little bit. Or okay, if it's someone I really want to see and hear next year, maybe like investing in VIP in advance would be like a better experience to actually hear it better and just like get that experience that I want. Or a date that didn't meet your expectations. Like, okay, no, they're not my dream partner and I don't necessarily want to go back to that restaurant, but hey, I learned a lot of interesting things about that person. And hey, now I know what I don't love about that person that I can take with me moving forward. Or, now I know certain things that a person does on a date that I'm going to look out for because that's really not my vibe. Or like, hey, he did that and I really loved that he did that. There's so much to teach us from every single experience, whether it be things we liked, things we didn't like, lessons we were meant to learn. We can see the experience as something that made us better and something we learned from, instead of just needing it to be something that perfectly met our expectations and standards. The experience is so much more than just quote good or quote bad. It's not so black and white. It can be something that's gray, that it's like, there was a lot of good here and also a lot that I learned from this experience. And from this experience, I'm taking so much of that moving forward. So when I have a similar experience, I'm a little bit better and I'm a little bit wiser from it. So that concludes today's episode on high expectations and how to enjoy experiences a little bit more. How to not set such an impossible bar. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to press follow or subscribe wherever you are listening. And it would mean the world to me if you left a comment and rating on the show to really help my efforts in growing fulfilled. And I'll see you all again soon on your journeys to living this life fully.